What's up, guys? I am Anthony, and I did my presentation on income inequality in America. So just to start, the origins of income inequality. Inequality, it has increased greatly since the 70s, from like roughly when FDR took president to LBJ. Inequality was low because of New Deal programs, and workers' unions were very strong. And income inequality has been on the rise since the Reagan administration. I'll show you a graph like the next one or two slides. And wages have stagnated for middle class Americans, while the top 1% of the country has seen an insane amount of increase in their income. So since income inequality, as you'll see later, really started to get bad during the Reagan presidency. I'll go on like what he did to have its effect. And this isn't bashing Ronald Reagan. It just because I have a slide about Bill Clinton too. So I'm hitting Democrats and Republicans. But Reagan was tough on unions. For example, there was these air traffic controllers. They went on strike because I forget for what. But they were state or federal workers, and he fired 11,000 of them just because they went on strike. So he cracked down on unions big, and unions protect workers' rights to make sure they're not being screwed by their company, and they're being paid a good amount and get benefits. You know what I mean? Reagan also cut taxes, and he cut taxes on the rich specifically. And his economic plan was called Reaganomics, or as his opponents called it, trickle-down economics. And the ideology behind that was if these people in the top 1%, like these very wealthy people, had extra money to spend, they'd go and spend more money, and it would trickle down to the upper middle class, working class, lower class. And that didn't really work. The tax cuts didn't work, and with the unions being weakened, income inequality got pretty bad. So if you look in like roughly 1982, they crossed past that top 10%, the red and the blue, and one is going up and one is going down. And if you start, the graph starts in like the late 40s, it's going up. They're hand in hand with each other. People are making more money in both the middle class and the upper class, which there's nothing wrong with that. But why in 1982 did the 90% stagnate and the top 10% of the country just start going up a drastic amount? And this continued with, if you look in the 90s, which is when Bill Clinton was president, it got even worse. So I will go into why Clinton what he did. In '95, Clinton loosened the housing rules by rewriting the Community Reinvestment Act, which put more pressure on banks to lend money to give mortgages to people in low income neighborhoods. Clinton was big on having people buying their own house, which is like part of, I guess, the American dream. You work hard, you get your house, you have a family. So Clinton was very big on having people owning houses. Clinton also deregulated the financial market, and deregulation is bad because anybody could take out money, even if they don't have the credit for it, and market consumers aren't protected by federal agencies, so just gives you a better chance of getting screwed over. And that CRA rewritten caused an explosion of subprime mortgages. Subprime mortgages are people who have mortgages who really can't afford them. And investors started selling those to each other to get the fault off them, and they made money off that while knowingly giving these people mortgages which they couldn't afford. The effects of this, his idea at first was actually great. The housing market, if you probably ask any of your parents, the 90s and 2000s was a great time to buy a house. It was a buyer's market. Anybody could buy it. Clinton didn't, I don't think he rewrote that law in plans for the housing market to crash. He didn't foresee that. So, but the housing market boomed, but the side effects didn't really happen until 2007, 2008 when it crashed. And all hell broke loose when the economy went down. The housing crisis. So, in the 90s and in the early 2000s, the housing market was so good that banks would loan out money to people who probably couldn't afford the mortgage, which is called the subprime mortgage, like I said earlier. So even if the borrower defaulted on their mortgage, the banks didn't care because the property value would still go up. The market was that good, so they could go and sell to some other loser, and they wouldn't lose any money. So none of these banks foresaw that nobody thought the properties would lose any value because the market was so good. Everyone kind of got trigger happy with it, but they eventually did, and that's why the economy crashed in 2007, 2008. And I have a video here that explains a little better than me and goes into a little more detail. So here we go. So effects of the housing crisis. Obviously, there was the Great Recession, which President Obama inherited when he took office, and many of us know what that was like. And a lot of people lost their home, got a lot of ongoing foreclosures still today. That the market has gotten better slowly but surely. It's going to be harder to get a mortgage now because people aren't just going to dish out money like they did after seeing what happened. And the middle class was burdened with bailing out the economy when that I forget what it was. It was some act, but the middle class got slammed with taxes after Wall Street essentially kind of crashed the economy by selling each other all these garbage mortgages that they knew that were going to crash, and they just took the fault off each other. So, and that again widened the income inequality because Wall Street got a free pass, and the middle class, who was already at a disadvantage to these people, I couldn't find a graph showing it now, but the gap just widened. And how do you fix that? So in conclusion, I've come to see that both political parties are to blame, but I don't think, speaking on behalf of both political parties, I don't think the people who took office and signed these things, their intent was to crash the economy. I think the people to blame are the investors, the banks, and Wall Street, who were selling each other all these mortgages, knowing that at some point they were gonna default. And my project, the whole thing, is from the conflict perspective, because this was obviously a conflict, and it still is. Another thing I included, the middle class was burdened again with bailing out Wall Street with that huge tax plan. I forget what it was called. I forget the name. I gotta look it up. But yeah, the middle class got screwed, and in income inequality, the gap got bigger. So by fixing that, how do you do it? You could lower taxes on the middle class and raise them on the upper class to close the gap a little bit. You could just undo what everyone did, and maybe we would go back. I don't have the answer, and I know everyone else doesn't, but it is still an ongoing problem that needs to be solved. So here are my references, and again, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.